Fred, what did you think when you watched? Actually, I should just share some reporting. The senior White House official told me that today we had the prose and the poetry of governing at the White House as the president met both with Senator Chris Murphy and with Matthew McConaughey. It's going to take both to overcome a 28-year gap of any federal gun control getting enacted. With that as sort of the president's interest in bringing everything to bear in this fight, what do you make of Chris Murphy, Senator, your friend Chris Murphy, being at the White House, as well as actor Matthew McConaughey today?
Listen, Matthew McConaughey, if I could give him a bear hug right now, I would, because he said everything. A couple of things that stood out. Responsible gun owners are fed up with the Second Amendment being hijacked. Thank you for being a responsible gun owner and saying that as loudly as you did. This has never been about the Second Amendment. Saving lives never has been. This has never been about taking something away from responsible people. This has always been about saving lives. And Matthew McConaughey, again, if I could give you a hug, I would. And we need more responsible gun owners to step up and say that. And listen, in the same speech, he had a chance to talk about why this matters. Listen, when he talked about extensive restoration, I can't begin to tell you how real that is. And you know, for my daughter, we didn't require extensive restoration. One single shot severed her spinal cord. But here's the thing. Because of that, Jamie didn't die instantly. So those who needed extensive restoration, they died instantly. They didn't suffer. My daughter did. What I do remember about Jamie is the power of that one shot. It knocked her to the floor and it put a dent in her face that no amount of makeup could cover up. And I just, again, to hear it come from Matthew is so consequential. And thank you, President Biden, for making sure that America heard from him today. Thank you, Chris Murphy. I know you're running 24 hours a day trying to do this, and I know you're doing it even though Mitch McConnell has still not yet uttered the word gun. And the colleagues on the other side are still trying to do everything they can to make this about anything but the gun. Don't settle. Let's do something consequential that will save lives.
Fred, what I thought was so striking was that he put the gun owners right in the middle of the conversation. And Matt Dowd also seeks to do that every time we're all here together. But as you have pointed out, the Republicans don't want that to happen, right? The Republicans need the gun owners to think they're under threat. They need to think they're under threat of confiscation. I mean, the lies that have been told to the gun owners, piercing those lies, seem like perhaps one of the more impactful things that might have happened with, as Katie Tur reported, Fox News airing these remarks as they happened.
We're talking about saving kids. We're talking about saving adults. We're talking about reducing the instances of gun violence. And then you have people like Senator Thune who are talking about the need for this weapon to shoot vermin. But here we are. And so I'm going to say, while I have hope and faith because of Chris Murphy, the fact that McConnell still won't say gun, and the fact that Senator Rick Scott is running away from Governor Rick Scott is concerning to me, because Governor Rick Scott led on this issue. I spent many days, many hours on the phone with Governor Rick Scott when he was down here leading. He led this fight, but he won't do it for the country. And so I hope my friend Chris Murphy can get through to them, but unless they can deliver on bare minimum things like background checks, extreme risk protection, that's not going to save lives. If they want to deliver a mental health plan for the country, that's a good thing. Let's do that. I'm okay with that, but don't call it a gun safety bill.
Yeah, it's almost like a long overdue thing that Republicans usually aren't for to begin with. I want to play some more Matthew McConaughey for you, Matt Dowd. This is him speaking in language that I'm very familiar with you speaking in about our values.
We need to restore our family values. We need to restore our American values. And we need responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership. We need background checks. We need to raise the minimum age to purchase an AR-15 rifle to 21. We need a waiting period for those rifles. We need red flag laws and consequences for those who abuse them. These are reasonable, practical, tactical regulations to our nation, states, communities, schools, and homes. Responsible gun owners are fed up with the Second Amendment being abused and hijacked by some deranged individuals. These regulations are not a step back. They're a step forward for a civil society and the Second Amendment.
Matthew, I know you have implored Democrats and anyone on the side of gun safety in America to reframe it in this way. But I wonder what you think of this conversation shifting to the best way to protect gun rights is to use guns responsibly and safely. Is that something that you think resonates in places it hasn't to date?
Well, I have to say, watching Matthew McConaughey today, who's like of two modern iconic Texans, one is Matthew McConaughey, the other is Willie Nelson. So to have Matthew McConaughey stand up there from having been born in Uvalde and grown up in Texas, as who represents Texas, you couldn't have a better person to do that. The thing that I thought he did well, that I have tried to talk about numerous times, was one, not take this as, it's not a debate between gun owners and non-gun owners. It's a debate between people that want to do nothing to solve the problem and people that want to do something to solve the problem. Because as Matthew McConaughey said, the vast majority of gun owners in Texas and every other state want to do something about this. They're fine with red flag laws. They're fine with universal background checks. They're fine with raising the age to 21 to buy assault rifles. They're fine with all those things. But the other thing that I think was very important, and this is something I hope every person that wants this done takes as a lesson, intellectual arguments will not win this debate. Intellectual arguments are great to have, and they're fine to do, and we can lay out all the facts. But what wins this debate and what ultimately it creates the power in politics is when it strikes people's heart and their gut. And that's the only way we move policy forward fundamentally. The American public always votes based on their heart and in their gut. And I thought Matthew McConaughey did that exceedingly well. He made this a gut and heart issue. He made it an American values issue. And I hope any person talking about this, any person running on this, even if what happens, I have hope that something might get done. I have my own cynicism, I have hope. But maybe, just maybe, what this created is an opportunity for everybody that talks about it and everybody that runs on it, from state legislature to president, will do it in a fashion that strikes people in their heart and in their guts.